it's just the people, my classmates. When I went to IIT and met with, the folks in my hostel, it just suddenly dawned on me how unbelievably bright and so much better the rest of the people are, right? And also the talent that everybody has. So for me, that was the number one thing that struck, for sure. And of course the hostel environment. I was barely 17 years old when I went to IIT, and a home to go to a place, go to a hostel. So that whole ambiance of 300 plus other kids being there and hanging out and all kinds of activities, and just it's like the all senses, right? Everything from
Yes.
sports to academics to entertainment to, of course, the food, everything. It was just quite an overwhelming, but a phenomenal experience, to take it all in. Right. So just like many others at that time, wanted to come to the US and study. So one thing that really influenced me when I was at IIT is Professor T.T. Narendran, aka Mama, right? So I took his class, operations research, and that just piqued my interest in that field. And I also was down with jaundice right in the middle of that semester. So
Oh,
I ended up spending almost a month at home, but I took with me an OR book during that time. So I ended up devouring that book while I was, recovering. I had nothing else to do, right? Yeah, so I was very interested in academia while I was doing my PhD program.
mhm.
So I applied to a number of places for a faculty job. I didn't get any, and while before even I graduated, I got a job with a communications company in Boston called Cascade, which is
Mhm.
founded by Desh Deshpande, who's also an IITM alum, and his wife Jayashree, who's also an IITM alum, right? So
Yes.
I joined Cascade back in '96 and just immersed myself into that area, right? At that time, it was networking and communications area was growing like crazy. So it was a phenomenal time to be in the industry at that time. And the journey continued, for the last 25 plus years now in that area.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I spent number of years in that area, and then the last 5 6 years moved into artificial intelligence. The whole world is moving towards AI,
Yeah.
including Chennai, CHENN.ai. It's everything is
And
AI now. So I have been volunteering with organizations for the last almost 20 years now. I was with Shankara Eye Foundation, started volunteering in 2002, and was very deeply involved in fundraising and building eye hospitals in India through that. Right. In fact, as we speak today, Shankara has the hospital in Mumbai getting inaugurated.
wow.
So yeah, in Panvel. So I was involved about 15 years with Shankara Eye Foundation. Then I joined another organization, local organization called Calico, in the Bay Area, which helps victims of child abuse. We call it Achieving Justice and Healing for Child Abuse Victims. It's a local organization that interviews children that have been subject to child abuse and provides them a multidisciplinary care, at the same time working with law enforcement, etc. So a phenomenal organization. For me, it was anything to do with children is very close because we adopted our children from Guatemala. We have two boys; they're teenagers now. So and they were in a foster home, when we adopted them. So the whole, seeing that process and being through that process and knowing that anything to do with children has a lot of special place in our hearts, right, from me and my wife. So that sort of drew me to this organization, and I spent 5 years volunteering with them. And after my term ended, I was I used to do a lot of organizing number of industry events, during that time, especially in my business school at Wharton and etc. So Vijay Ullal, who's a 1980 alum and a very prominent Silicon Valley exec and a venture capitalist. So they were putting together a program for IIT Madras with IIT Madras Foundation, a summit, an all-day summit. So he asked me if I can come and help them. So I got involved for about a month or so, and then we put a really nice event together, which covered a number of topics, and it was a pretty good success. So that was one. And then before that, we had a 25th reunion for my class. I'm from 1990.
The batch.
So 2015 December. So my whole family, we were there, and we had about 70 of my classmates who came to that event, and it was just surreal experience, I tell you, because I had not kept in touch with IITM much before that. So when you go on campus, meet up with everybody, people that I know, and some people I did not even know before that, right? Because they were in different hostels and
Correct.
never got close.
Yeah.
But during that reunion, just made friends with so many people, and also got involved in fundraising for my class. So along with a core group of us, there are about 8 or 9 of us, we said, hey, let's do something special for our class. So we set a target of 8 crores, about $1.2 million. And we are probably the only class that met our fundraising goal for reunions, by the way, to date. So it's a record.
Yes.
It got me connected in the fundraising process with not only IITM people, but also my class and etc. So in 2017, when Vijay was looking for someone to lead IITM Foundation here, so he asked me. So it was quite an easy decision, to join that.
Beautiful.
Yeah, totally. So IITM Foundation generally has been raising money for IIT Madras, right? So everything from research to teaching to entrepreneurship to building things, centers, everything, right? So that's been our primary goal. And to put things in perspective, we've raised more than $22-23 million right now in aggregate.
Mhm.
Um, so that's been our thing. But early May, about month and a half, little over a month and a half ago, one of our alums, 93 class, Anand, he was talking to his classmate, Siddiq, who's an IAS officer, who's in charge of the COVID relief in Greater Chennai area. And also Rekha Ranganathan, she's also from 93. She is in Boston area, and she's been in the healthcare and healthcare diagnostics area for a long time. They were talking, and Siddiq mentioned that situation in Chennai is starting to get worse. The rest of India, at least certain parts of India, were already in bad shape by early May. But Chennai, they were expecting things to get worse. And he felt that getting some of this oxygen equipment will change, at least will help them be prepared for it, right? So Anand calls me one Saturday night. This was like May 3rd, I think. And I
Mhm.
was watching a movie. My wife and I were just sitting and relaxing Saturday night, watching a movie. And I was reluctant whether to pick up this call or not, but Anand is a good buddy. Picked up the phone. He mentioned all of this. Immediately, I called, the rest of the folks that night. And the next morning, we huddled together and we all decided that we have to do something about it. So this is where, we realized even though we raised money for all the other stuff, the need for COVID was so imminent. And then we also realized there is somebody on the ground who will actually deploy all of this well. We don't have to
Right.
worry about, you mentioned about trust. They'll do a good job with this. And then the third part is our alumni are standing by to see, what to do. So they want to help.
Yeah.
Many people are already talking about which organization should I give money to? How can I help? What can I do? We thought this is a perfect trifecta effect, right?
Yeah.
So next Sunday morning, we huddled with IITM Foundation, IIT MANA, and decided that we should raise $1 million, right? So within half a day, we had emails, flyers, everything out. We set a goal of 48 hours, and less than 48 hours, we had already crossed $1 million. And within another week to 2 weeks, we had raised more than $2 million because people stepped forward like crazy, both alumni and also, I should say, number of non-alumni people too. Yeah, so a number of things. On one side, Rekha had figured out a number of sources. Since she was in the industry, she knows a lot of people. She said we can actually procure oxygen concentrators from here, from there. So she had lined up as well as got commitment from number of suppliers to provide us. At the same time, we had to work with IIT Madras Alumni Charitable Trust, Alamelu and Kaviraj and others,
Oh.
because the procurement was going to be done from Chennai
Mhm.
and given to the Greater Chennai Corporation, etc.
Mhm.
So they had to get the entire supply chain in order, right? The money transferred
Yeah.
to India. We have FCRA nowadays with all that
Clearance.
stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
clearance and all that. So Alabelu and
Mhm.
Kaviraj and others,
Mhm.
they were quite instrumental in getting that done. And we and with Rekha's help, we figured out which suppliers and all that. Of course, we did just like any other experience like this. We ended up facing hurdle after hurdle. One of the things was going to be one of the shipments was going to be supplied from Israel, and there was a war that broke out, and then the airport got closed,
Yeah.
so they couldn't ship it. Then we moved to China, so found a supplier there, and then again they couldn't deliver either. Then we had to find a different supplier during that time. So all happening in literally
Yeah.
real time, day and night, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
finally found that you have to send the money. Almost all of them want at that time they wanted prepayment, so we had to make sure that money was sent. Then so there were two things. One is oxygen concentrators. So we delivered a number of them to Chennai and subsequently to other states as well. So in
Mhm.
terms of Telangana, Hyderabad and Telangana, some in AP and some in Karnataka, right?
Mhm.
Then we also figured out there was a need for BiPAP machines. People are having issues breathing. So BiPAP machines, were procured, sent out. Then we also found out that there was a need for treating black fungus,
Yes.
amphotericin. So that again was done. So during that process, there were a number of things we set with the group here, with MANA and IITM Foundation is what is the criteria, right? How do you say that what is the thing
Yeah.
that we want to fund? If we're sitting on $2 million, we need to have clear criteria so that we can decide which one to fund and the rationale why we would fund, etc. So that was all set, and we looked at one by one who needs it, and then what is it that we can do. So the idea was there is a need, there is an impact that we can make. Number three, there is somebody who would deploy it and give us a report. That way, we are clear where the money goes because end of the day, we are accountable to the donors. And then number four was we had to do this in time, right? There's no point in supplying some of this after the wave was gone. So those were the constraints. I worked through that. It was a phenomenal, few weeks getting all of this done. Yeah, I think seeing in my case, right, seeing that you are actually contributing a drop by drop to making this world better, right, somewhere or the other. I think just seeing that result, something is getting better somewhere. Somebody one by one is getting. Say, for example, when I was volunteering with Shankara Foundation, even if one person can get vision, right, they can see and they can lead their life, it makes you feel gratified, very gratified. Same
Yeah.
thing with IIT Madras, right? When we do IIT Madras Foundation, the work that we do, we can see that there is huge change happening, for many people one by one. And if we can see that, that actually is very gratifying, in my opinion. And the same thing with when I spend time volunteering with Calico. Hey, you're helping one child at a time, right?
Yeah.
One, I mean, we all, you know, can only imagine the trauma that anyone goes through when they go through something like that. Just making their life slightly better, you feel, hey, I'm I'm doing my part, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my goal in life is I want to leave, this planet slightly better than what I came in with, and especially if I'm able to make that delta difference, that is
Yeah.
gratifying. Yeah, so I'll tell you one failure. I joined a company in the professional side. I joined a company, with much fanfare, right? We were going to just do everything incredible, and we started. It was great for the first year. It was fantastic, right? We started building lots and lots of products, and I was in charge of building this new product development and new business development and all that. phenomenal. One day, it was July 4th weekend, the CEO and the board didn't get along. They disagreed on something. And that's it. That started this whole chain of events. And then the 2008, 2009 economic collapse happened, right? Crash. Just everything broke apart from the time that we were doing, right? So suddenly, one day you're looking like, you're on top of the world, and 3 weeks later or 3 months later, suddenly find yourself sitting and seeing what's going on. This is nothing, right? So it's a very humbling experience when you go through that. Then you realize, nothing is in our control. We are very fragile. Lots of factors depend on it, but we have to continue doing what we do. Just keep chugging at it, right? Chipping at it. So that's a lesson. And if you have more time, there are tons and tons and tons where, if I've